So once you define the problem and you correct it, you need to correct it in the right order. You always want to do exposure first. And the reason is because sometimes that can mask a problem. The color might look bad, and then as soon as you correct the exposure, it looks perfectly fine. Sometimes though, you'll fix the exposure and then all of a sudden you'll see a color shift that you didn't see before. Then the second thing you want to do is correct color. And color can also add a little bit of contrast. So you always want to do color before you add contrast, just so you're not doing that little circle of exposure, color, contrast, exposure, color, contrast. And you're going to save time and keep your file in better shape. The last thing you want to do, of course, is contrast and sharpness. That's always going to be the icing on the cake. You want to save it to the end. Let me show you some prints. So here's a nice picture of Brianna out in the field, and it needs a little bit of help. The first thing I did is I corrected the exposure, and you can see it's a lot better. My blacks and whites look a lot better, but still off color. So then, here I've corrected the color. It's much warmer, doesn't have that blue cast that you get on the outdoors a lot. Then the last thing I did is I added a little bit of contrast, and this is the final image. Much better, a little bit snappier. So you always want to do it in that order. And in here, we've got a bunch of tools along the bottom. Now the Enhance button is the auto button. So we're going to click on that, and it doesn't look like it changed a whole lot. But you always want to try that first, because sometimes it works great, saves you tons of time. And if it doesn't, then you can go to the Advanced tools. So then we're going to go to this button over here called Adjust, and we get these whole list of things that we can adjust here. So I would say the exposure, well, you know what? It adjusted a teeny bit. See, you've got two little markers that's been changed just a little bit, but I think I would like to see it a little bit brighter. And I'd like to open up the shadows. So down here, we've got shadow sliders. Look at that. That looks so much better. It's pretty contrasty, so we can turn down the contrast. There we go. So there's lots of controls in here. If the color needed to be changed, we've got all those sliders. There's quite a bit of controls right here in iPhoto. So next we're going to try AC/DC. I'm going to open up this file here of this family in AC/DC. What color is the sky? Well, it's kind of blue-greenish or cyan. So of course our light is cyan. That's going to give us a cyan cast. And also if you photograph in the grass, the green reflection, that even magnifies the green. So this right here is a really common problem. This one's corrected, and this is your typical cyan cast. Now sometimes we might get a cold blue look. And when you photograph in a warm surroundings like this, there's nice warm bricks and everything. If your camera's on auto, it's going to see all that warm, overcompensate, and makes your picture really blue. So those are two common problems that we're going to need to fix. And the eyedroppers really help because I got white and black. What if you have an image like this? There's no black, there's no white. That's when you're going to use a guide print like this. Now this guide print I made from a bunch of portraits, and I have good skin tone for every different ethnicity. And this is really handy because there's a color in there for anybody's face. And I can look at this and realize, I think that's pretty good color right there, where it was really hard to tell. It could use a little contrast for sure, but it's got good color. So all of those demos were pretty easy solutions, but sometimes you're going to run into something that you just can't get right and you don't know which way to go. It takes a while to learn what should be added. Should it be red or magenta? Is it blue? Is it cyan? Well, there's a tool in here called Variations that just may help you. Let me show you. I'm in Elements right now, and I have this image, and I'm just not sure which way to go. If I go to Enhance and Adjust Color, down at the bottom is Color Variations. When I get Color Variations, I have a completely different window. It shows me my before and my after, and it has all these options down here. Now this is time consuming. It is not fast. It's not like one of those little one-click things, but sometimes this is what you need. Well, first of all, I can tell you these are way too extreme. So right here, where it has the amount, I'm going to tone this down so it's a little bit more subtle. And then this button is increase red, increase green, increase blue, and this is decrease. So I'm just going to drag this up. Oh, that's way too much red. So I can turn it down. Let's say maybe just a little bit more subtle. So I can click on increase red, maybe decrease it. Looks a little blue, so we'll decrease blue, decrease blue. Wow, that's getting a lot better. We can do lighten, now we'll do darken. So you can monkey around with these, no, it's not green, and just click on each one. It's going to throw that adjustment up there, and you can play around with it and figure out what the problem is. It's kind of like a trial and error kind of thing. Not fast, but sometimes this is just the ticket. So when I do color correct for things like this, I'll show you what tools I use. These are grad cards. I do a lot of high school seniors, and they send these out, and they always have cool composites on them. Multiple images, all on the same layout. Well, guess what? When you send this to the lab, they can't individually color correct each image. This is all one image. So this is a situation when you have to do it yourself. So let me show you a trick on how to work with that. Well, I just opened up 4 images of Giorgio here, and I want to show you how to put them all on the screen together so you can see them all at one time and then color correct them to match. Now, all these images are actually in an acceptable range of color. They all look pretty good, but when you put them together, yeah, they don't really match. So let me show you a trick. In Elements, when you open up all your images, you're just going to go up here to the upper bar. There's this little box, and you click on that and see all these grids. I'm going to choose this grid right here, and it's going to put them all in a grid. Then I can take each individual image and I can move them around and get them where all the faces are showing. And you can see there's a big difference here. This one's nice and saturated. This one's pretty good color, but it doesn't match. This one's a little on the cool side, and this one's okay. It just needs a little bit more snap to it. But this actually helps me see them all together and modify them individually. You know, it's not a bad idea to bring up your guide print too, if you like. I know these are already corrected to be pretty decent. It's just a matter of making them match each other. So let's start off with this one right here. I would say it needs a little bit of saturation and it's a little bit cool. So I'll just go to my Enhance button and I'm going to go to Adjust Color, and we're going to remove a color cast. Now there's a little bit of black and white here. I'm going to use